Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, celebrity interviews, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
And welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again before a radio audience here in Mississippi at WYAD 94.1 FM and WYADonline.com. We're glad that you all could be with us. Also joining us are our friends at iHeartRadio and Amazon Music Podcast. We're glad you all could be with us as well. We're so excited to welcome New York Times bestselling author and Mississippi native Angie Thomas to our program today. You guys know her from books like The Hate You Give and Concrete Rose. They're celebrating something very special in 2022, out for paperback and the very first time, and right out of the gate, already a #1 release on Amazon.com. We're going to talk to Angie not only about the book's success, but also what it's been like for her to do what she loves and share that with the world. Angie, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hey, the pleasure's definitely all mine. You know, the station in Yazoo City, Mississippi, that's where we're located here on the radio dial. We were excited about the opportunity to be able to finally get you on our program. Angie, what has this experience been like for you? You grew up wanting to be a writer. How does it feel to be able to do exactly what you always wanted to do?
You know, it's an amazing feeling, and it's a blessing above all. To be able to do what you love, to do what you dreamed about since you were a kid. Not a whole lot of people get that opportunity. So I'm super thankful, super grateful. But honestly, it feels like a dream. Had you told me, you know, as a little girl in Jackson that this would be my life, I would be happy, but I would also be like, wow, really?
Yeah.
But, you know, being able to write stories and to tell stories that connect with so many people, it's an honor to know that people take the time and spend the money to buy my books and to sit down and read them. You know, that's humbling. That's an honor because people don't have to do that, and they do. So to know that they do, I'm super grateful, super thankful.
Yeah, and a lot of people got to know you, Angie, from the book The Hate You Give. When you were writing that book and sharing those series of events that are in that book, did you realize at the time that it was as special and powerful as it is?
I didn't, and I'm honestly glad I didn't, because it would have changed probably the way I viewed the book. It would have put a little more pressure on my shoulders. I'm super surprised by everything that happened, but I'm glad that it's created conversations. The funny thing is, though, when I was sitting down to write it, I wasn't thinking about the conversations it would create. I wasn't thinking about, people will see this as a political blah, blah, whatever, you know. I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking about writing a story that meant something to me and, more importantly, meant something to the young people that I saw every day in my community, in my church, and the conversations I would have with those young people about Black Lives Matter movement, but about Trayvon Martin, the 17-year-old kid that they identified with, about, you know, Mike Brown, the kid that they identified with, Tamir Rice, the kid they identified with. For me, it was always about writing their perspective and telling their story, telling the story of these young people that I know, that I see every day, who are often ignored, and giving them something so that they could see themselves and see the power and the beauty, above all, that lies within them.
Yeah. And you have had audiences literally of all ages, Angie, that have picked up your books and enjoyed them. My best friend in Louisville, Kentucky, Herschel Dixon, his daughter, when she found out I was going to be speaking with you, she had some questions. She is at Atherton High School in Louisville, Kentucky. She had 2 questions she wanted me to ask you, Angie. One, when writing this book, again, talking about The Hate You Give, what did you hope youth would gain from it?
Well, I hope that they would understand the power of their voice. Young people have power, and so often we don't validate that power within them enough. But honestly, they're some of the most powerful people in the world. That they could create, you know, they changed the dictionary with the slang they create. You know, they created a $1 billion industry with social media, TikTok, and all of this stuff. You know, they come up with the latest dances and all of this. But if they have the power to do that, if they have the power to have something trend online, they have the power to change the world. And I want them to know that changing the world is just about changing the world that's right around them. So that's what The Hate You Give is about. It's about changing the world that's around you, and in doing that, helping to change the world.
That ties in perfectly, Angie, with her second question. Did the response to the book meet your expectations that you had for it?
Oh, they exceeded my expectations. When I first sat down to write this book, I was thinking to myself, I said, there's no way this is going to get published. I may just have to print out copies and passed them out around the neighborhood or something like that, you know.
Wow.
But for it to be, you know, the Hate U Give has been on the New York Times bestseller list since it came out 5 years ago. And most of the weeks it's been number one. You know, it's sold millions of copies. It's in over 30 languages at this point. It's worldwide. I never expected that, never, especially in an industry in which, specifically children's literature, in which Black voices are often not at the forefront. You don't see books about Black kids nearly enough, especially at the time Hate U Give came out. So for it to have done this and to be this huge thing, I never expected it. Honestly, I'm still having trouble wrapping my mind around it.
Wow. And, Angie, your way of telling stories, I think, really draws the reader in. Whether we're talking about The Hate U Give or Concrete Rose, you, of course, by the way you write, you bring us into these characters' lives by personalizing it, us having to say I as we are reading it. Was it easy for you to come out of that? Because you do kind of become immersed in these characters, especially in the way it's written. Was it easy for you to let them go at the end?
I had to let them go for my own sake. I'm a firm believer in the power of therapy, and therapy helps me with that. But I had to step out of those shoes so that I could go on to the next story and tell the next story, because there are so many young Black people who don't get their stories told nearly enough. And had I just stayed in Star's shoes and stayed in her perspective, I wouldn't have been able to tell Brianna's story and On the Come Up, and then Maverick's story in Concrete Rose, and reach other young people who see themselves in these characters. So for me, it's just important to take that time away from that book. Honestly, I have not read The Hate U Give in years, not since I turned it in, and that's how I really disconnect from the story. So when people bring up stuff like a certain scene or this, and this, I'm like, oh, yeah. And a lot of times I'm like, I don't even remember that. But I'm glad they did.
Right. Wow. Well, I tell you, it is one of those powerful things, and I thought about when I was prepping for this segment. I have the paperback editions that are out now, Angie, and in The Hate U Give, that line that still stands out to me, and I think it means so much, where it says, and at the end of the day, you don't kill someone for opening a car door. If you do, you shouldn't be a cop. And I think, lines like that put so much in perspective. You mentioned, of course, On the Come Up, again, another book that it's getting, its own just due. What advice would you have as we wrap up here, Angie, for aspiring writers out there? You grew up with this hope that has become a reality. What do you hope other young people who have that hope do?
Well, I hope that they, one, know that perfection is the enemy of progress. I say that for any writer out there. I have a lot of people who tell me, I want to write, but then they get discouraged when they sit down and do it because it doesn't seem perfect to them, or they compare it to something they just read. Keep your eyes on your own paper, and know that perfection is the enemy of progress. We need these stories told. We need them to get done, and they don't have to be perfect at the first go-round. That's what editing is for. But I hope that young people know we need their perspective. Their perspectives are important. If their perspectives weren't important, books like mine wouldn't be on most banned lists right now. Because other people see the importance and the power of that perspective. Other people see that, hey, if these kids start reading about books about people unlike themselves, oh, wow, it changes their whole perspective, and it changes the way they look at things. And I don't necessarily like that. Well, we need them to change. We need people to see lives beyond their own. We need people to see, young people especially, to see perspectives beyond their own. So I want young writers, especially writers, period, to know there is power in your perspective. We need these stories. So get them done.
So true. Again, everyone, New York Times best-selling author Angie Thomas has been our guest. Her books, The Hate U Give and Concrete Rose, are out in paperback right now. Make sure you guys go and get them for yourself. And also make sure you guys get On the Come Up. The Kindle edition is only $1.99 right now. Make sure you all get that book while you're on Amazon, too. Angie, again, congratulations to you. And thank you so much again for the time. Really appreciate it.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Glad to do it, and we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live. Now let's go make the day amazing. Take care.